Okay, this is amazing. We are actually live streaming on Facebook. This is amazing. So I'm Crystal Barrett O'Loughlin, and today for the Rare Mothers Roundtable, we are interviewing my parents, Richard and Phyllis Barrett. So hi, can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes, you froze, but I don't know if we should turn the computer off and on.
We're not
I don't
frozen now.
I don't think so. I think maybe we just needed to kind of get going. Am I still freezing or are we good?
You're okay.
You're not frozen.
Oh, good. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm okay. I'm really happy because I'm with my parents. Right? I mean, and we've been kind of
Not everyone can say that.
not everyone can say that.
And
I'm just glad that you are who you are, that you're feeling better. You've had a little run-in with COVID. Do you want to talk about that for a minute? Are you feeling better, Dad?
yes, I'm feeling much better. It's gotten increasingly better in the last week or so, especially. But prior to that, it'd be okay for a day or two, and then relapse, and okay for a day or two, and maybe just for one day, and back to it again. So it's just up and down, up and down. I just deal with whatever.
Well, I'm gonna make a statement. You tell me if this is right, but I'm gonna guess that you're getting better because you have such good caregiving from Mom.
That's true. It's such a really nice, pleasant surrounding atmosphere.
Yes.
Fresh air coming in from windows. We've got fresh trees outside. We've got bushes with hibiscus flowers and stuff on them, and the hummingbirds are eating the nectar out of the trees, and you can hear the dogs and animals barking in the background, and you can see the other trees over here that have a little rust on them because they've just didn't get enough water for a while, but everything's cool. Oh, there's a squirrel.
Oh, okay. We're getting like the play-by-play at Barrett Family Ranch. Okay. So actually, let's talk about where the two of you are right now,
In the
and
backyard.
in the backyard. So tell us about Barrett Family Ranch. What is that?
Well, we're in a area called Orange Park Acres, and it's horse property, and all of the properties that are involved in it are at least 1 acre so that they can have horses. And it's rural. There's no city sidewalk. There's no street lights at night other than the ones the homeowners put up and so forth. And we have ours too. So um, have a lot of different things here, and I'm kind of a collector and like to put up different things. We have a windmill tower out in the backyard right here. I'm looking out the window where the old fashioned one where it turns from the wind and pumps water out of the ground. But ours doesn't work for that reason, but just there for looks. But I like it.
We
And
we moved here first 50 years ago.
right, we've been here a long time, 50 years. No,
What?
none of this stuff is here.
We used
You
to
know,
ride our horses across the street,
oh yeah,
and now it's covered with houses.
right.
Oh my gosh. And this was your idea, right, Mom, to move out into this rural environment? What kind of led to this
Well,
encouraging?
we wanted a large family, and we were getting one, and we were living in the city, and I just said I'd like to be out in the country. So I started looking around and found Orange Park Acres. And about a year later, we found this house, and your dad bought it.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
1 acre. There was no fencing anywhere on the acre. It's 210 feet each side of the acre, front, back, sides. No fencing on it. The only thing here was a house and a two-car garage.
I
It,
love it.
it's
It,
interesting at that time they were tearing down
uh,
wooden telephone poles to replace them with metal. And your dad went around, and as they tore them down, he collected them and came back and brought them and built the corrals and the fence.
Fences and so forth, right?
with those
Yeah.
old telephone poles.
The house was only 800 square foot, 2 bedroom, 1 bath, and a living room with a fireplace.
Yep.
And had a detached garage, and that was it. No fencing anywhere.
And
So,
58 years later, it is now a sprawling 4,500 square feet,
right.
sleeps 20 people, and has hosted any number of families coming in to go to Disneyland and work events and sporting teams coming in. And Barrett Family Ranch has also been the site of our Angel Aid Rare Mothers Wellness Retreats. So
And
a lot of healing in this environment, huh?
Yes, and had maybe one or two halfway negative responses to the rural atmosphere, but everybody else seems to love it.
Love how quiet it is and
Yes.
beautiful. And in fact, you built the room that you're in right now.
Right.
Yep, with all the knotty pine and
Knotty pine up here, and this is the new bedroom. We just finished it about only 3 months ago at the most.
yep, yep. So we were talking about, in our community, survival techniques, self-care techniques, and building is your kind of go-to, Dad. Building things, creating things.
Right.
So, talk to us about family life and, give our audience a sense of the Barrett family and how you used building over the years as a way to kind of handle all the things that were going on.
I started out in building, getting instruction from my dad, which is my adopted father. I was adopted by him, was about 8 or 9 years old, and he was in the Navy. He was a cook in the Navy. He was 6'6", and I was thinking that's pretty unusual to have people that tall in a ship that doesn't have doors that are only 6 foot high. So he has to duck his head a lot. But Dad was, his father, my grandfather. Um, they were in Vernon, Texas, and grandfather Barrett had a shoe repair shop and did repair work for shoes and stuff in Vernon, Texas. And his son, my dad, was brought into that and learned how to fix shoes and fix this and fix that and fix machinery that had to be used to fix the shoes.
I think she wants to know about our
I love the life story. I love the life story. And those are all part of what make you who you are today, Dad. But Mom's stepping away for a moment.
I'm sorry.
My
It's okay.
dad was instrumental in, showing me how to build things, because he was a plumber and a roofer. He could do all kinds of stucco work and plumbing work and carpentry work, and so he started me out on it and so forth. And then I went into it in high school and started going and taking, carpentry classes, in that school, and also on the in the summer times I get to go to an apprenticeship class and become an apprentice carpenter.
And all of that training enabled us to afford to have a large family, which is what we wanted.
Right.
Yes. And you two met in high school.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Phyllis was the leader of the drill team for the football and sports team, and I was captain of the football team. So we made a good pair.
That was quite a few years ago.
Yeah,
60 years ago?
1960, 59, 60, 61.
Wow.
I graduated, and
I graduated in 62,
right.
and we were married in 63, in January, and in November, our first son was born,
Right.
Richard Adam.
Right. Who is 6'2" today and probably weighs about close to 280 pounds. He's bigger than I am.
He's strong. We love it. And then you had more children. Keep
Yes.
taking us through your life.
Well, that was our first boy, Richard, and we lived in Garden Grove at that time, and a little house that after we bought it and moved into it, the postman told us that he'd been delivering mail to that house for years and years, and after about a year that we had been there, he quietly told me one day, don't take offense or anything about it, but this used to be a
chicken coop.
In this long building that was like 70 or 80 feet long, and it's all straight. Every room you have to walk through the living room to get to the kitchen, to get to the next bedroom, and walk through that bedroom to get to the next bedroom, and that
into the garage.
Into the garage.
Love conquers all. Okay, so you're living in a chicken coop that's been converted into a house, and you've got Richard Adam, your first son, and then who comes along after that?
18 months later, James David came, and we were all excited about, now we've got two sons, and then 2 years later, Jared was born. But we had concerns about James David because he didn't seem to be developing the way Richard Adam had. We weren't the first ones to talk about it.
It was our parents.
His mother lived in Scottsdale,
Arizona,
and she came and visited us every 6 months, and she began to say that David isn't
progressing and developing.
He hasn't changed since the last time I was here, and at that age he should be. So I started at the well baby checkups, because we had told our pediatrician that we planned on having a large family, and we wanted him to watch the children, make sure they were okay and everything. And so I told him, my mother-in-law says that there's something not developing right with David. And finally, when David was about 4 years old, and he had been toilet trained and he had begun to talk, but
he started regressing, losing what he had already learned.
And it was so subtle, and we had such a connection with our children that it just seemed, and Richard Adam was mentally gifted, so comparing him was not fair. Anyhow, it just got to the point where I went in the well baby checkup, and he says, no, everything's fine. You're just comparing him with Adam.
Yeah, and I remember distinctly going to those doctor meetings and talking to the doctors and so forth, and they denied that there was anything, slow about him. They didn't want to say that, be out of respect to us or whatever, but they weren't developing right, and my mother knew it, and not that we'd had any other experience with any of the other kids and throughout the family with aunts and uncles and so forth, and we have had all those aunts and uncles and so forth, and none of them have had the MPS problem.
So at this particular meeting, I finally said, well, how come his arm don't straighten out all the way? And the doctor got up and he walked around to the back of his desk and took out a book and read something, and then he came back around and he said, I'm gonna have David tested. And he said, and I think I'll have Jared tested too. And I, for what? And he said, well, they may have a rare disease, a genetic disease. And he didn't talk any more about it at that meeting, but he had the test done. And then when the results came back, they both tested positive for MPS, Hunter syndrome. And I was 8 months pregnant with Randy. And when Randy was born a month later, they tested him, and he had it. He had the disease, which the rarity of it we found out later when the doctors from Europe came over and talked to me at San Diego State University. There were only around 100 recorded cases in the world.
This was in 1964 or 5.
1968.
1968.
Yeah. And
oh, your hearts just must have dropped into your stomach. I
Right.
can't, it's like the unthinkable.
Well,
actually,
you don't know what to do. You don't know what to do about it. You just start doing as best you can. We started feeding them carrot juice. Went and bought a juicer,
Vitamix machine,
and a vitamin machine, and trying to, everything we could think of to, make their bodies as strong as they could be.
Yeah.
And so forth. But it took years of talking to people and so forth, doctors and so forth, and it just slowly progressed.
The first year
regressed. They regressed. They
more and more
would lose whatever they had gained in the beginning and lose that and become slower, and we losing balance and falling down a lot, and not being able to talk, not being able to learn as much. They're happy kids because you've been with us and seen them, and we've taken you everywhere and done everything, and when you see pictures of them when they were young, if you didn't really know, you wouldn't even think about it.
We used to have a family night on Monday night, and we had this activity. It was through our church, and we had this activity. Tell what is makes you happiest, and your dad's comment was, "When I come home, here come those boys, smiling, loving me,
true.
happy.
They come and cling on me, and and smile at me, and just enjoy having me come and be. And I swing them around and play them, and then I take them out. And all the time we were living in Garden Grove, and I was building fences to keep them in the yard so they wouldn't be out in the street getting run over by cars and stuff. And I'd have them helping in, making me, help me carry the materials and help me with this or that. Or if I paint and I got it painting, I let them paint until they got tired of it.
Well, that first year I was in denial.
Right.
That's why I tried to cure them with the food they ate. But also, I believed that God would heal them because we were very active in our church, and we believed,
right.
and we believed that we believed in the healing powers, and also, well, so anyway, I was in denial, but eventually, they started being sick all night. One or the other of them would be sick with congestion and not breathing well and all of those things. And so it was 24/7 taking care of them. And
plus they, no bladder control or anything, so they're constantly in diapers, all three of them.
It was like it was triplets,
from the time they were babies until they're teenagers.
Yeah.
Well, I'm 77 and I've been in diapers the last couple of months.
Well, there's that.
That's true too.
Yeah, Dad.
So we were very careful always to not make them feel bad about what was happening to them.
Yeah.
And we explained the problems
To our doctors and to anybody else that we thought could help.
to our son Adam,
Mhm.
and then of course to you, Crystal. And you, when you when you were like 2.5, you were leading them around and telling them what to do and mothering them, and everything they needed, you were right out there going to get it
Right.
for them. So they had a lot of love. In fact, I just told this story on Tuesday, but those doctors that came over from Europe, and they said that the children with this disease do a lot of biting. And I know you're going to tell your story, but hang on a minute. But he said, well, your children don't bite. Well, I knew that they didn't bite because they weren't frustrated. They were, we met every need they had before they suffered from the lack of attention or the lack of need or frustration.
Pain or whatever, right?
Yeah. Now, Dad has a story about Jared one time. Go ahead.
Well, Jared was the second. David was the oldest, and Jared, for some reason, I don't know, just different psychological brothers or whatever fighting with one another or whatever. And so Jared started.
He was trying to communicate, but he didn't have any words.
He didn't have the words, and David was a little bit, farther along intellectually and so forth. And Jared, in frustration, if you'd get really upset at David, he'd go over and bite him in the back. And he did that a couple of times, and I tried to correct it, with kind of a little slight spanking and so forth. And he'd do it again a couple of weeks later, and finally the third time he did it, and I said, well, it's got to stop. So the only way I know to do is to teach him what it's like. What's it feel like to be bitten in the back? So I bit him hard in the back. He never bit Jared again. David.
There you go. Cowboy parenting right there.
Teach him as best you can.
Absolutely.
I wasn't a psychologist, and I wasn't a child, didn't know what to do. Heck, I was a young parent,
We didn't believe in capital punishment. We agreed not to spank them. Right. And so that was a one-time incident.
Yeah.
But I don't think you bit him that hard.
No.
Well, you bit him enough to. I don't remember being bit. Let's put it that way. So, so thank you, thank you for making the point, so that my brothers. So then this is a probing question, but the love story between the two of you went through some bumpy times at this point. So you had 5 kids. Me as the youngest, Richard as the oldest, without MPS disease, and then David, Jared, and Randy with MPS disease. You'd been married about, 11, 12 years at this point, and things shifted in the family.
Well,
we weren't communicating real well. We were young.
True. And we weren't getting any support from any outside group. Nobody had any answers to what the problem was. Nobody knew what it was. Very, very little outside support of any kind. And we went to marriage counselors, and I know one particular one said that looking at your circumstances with your family and the diseases that they have, and if they're saying that they're They're not fixable. They're not adjustable. There's nothing you can do to improve the situation at all. Says your marriage with your wife is probably never going to last.
Oh, thanks for the endorsement. So you divorced?
Well,
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
we,
you divorced.
but by then, go ahead.
No,
All right. Go ahead.
This is tough.
you keep
This is
moving that.
you keep moving Mom out of the frame, but and literally like that's sort of what happened at that time in your lives. Now, obviously, the punchline is already here, which is you're back together again. So the audience doesn't have to carry a bunch of stress about this. You see the Hollywood ending has happened, but talk about those years when you were apart. Where did the boys go? Where did we go?
It's not a real pleasant story. David, Jared, and Randy. We went through having outside caretakers paid for by the state of California to take care of them. Would place all three of them with the family if they felt that they could help, if they could handle it.
Well, the first place that they stayed was with a retired nurse because they needed 24-hour nursing care. And as much as I could do, as much love as I could give them, as we could give them, we couldn't take care of their physical needs, their sickness. They were sick all the time. And Richard Adam, their older brother, would be up with me at night helping them. And it just got to be more than it was humanly possible. And I don't remember care. We never had anybody come into the house to help. Our church, when one day I laid down on the couch and didn't get up for a week, and our church sent people in to help us. Other than that, I don't remember ever having help in the home. And it finally reached the point where they had to go to some place where there was nursing care.
Well, we had to apply to the state.
Yeah.
And
state care.
And they paid for the nurse who was a foster parent, and the boys went and stayed
at foster homes.
Yeah. And I might mention that the reason we had more problems with Jared sometimes was because he had an IQ of 60. Now, back then, I didn't understand what that meant. I knew what mentally gifted was, but I didn't understand that with an IQ of 60, a child could be worked with and trained, and but I wasn't aware of any help that they could get. Regional Center didn't give us any help, so I've always felt bad because I felt like we couldn't keep the three of them, but we might have been able. But we decided the reason we let them all three go together was because.
Oh, shoot. Okay, pause for a moment because we're having
Hello.
An internet challenge. Okay, you're back again. So where you cut out was you felt bad because you realized that Jared had an IQ of 60 and that he could have been worked with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there wasn't any.
Yeah.
There wasn't any input from anybody telling us that. And so we talked it over and we decided that we would keep the three brothers together. And so they did go together. And we had them on the weekends. That's why they were with you so much of the time. And we had them on holidays. And I was their scout mother when they sent them to school. See, that was one of the good things that came out of them moving on to somebody and some place where they could get help. They actually, David went to school. And I was their Boy Scout mother in school. So we had a lot of contact with them until they got so sick that the nurse couldn't keep them at home. She didn't have the medical instruments or tools.
Or know what to do in emergencies and so forth.
At home.
At home. And so at the time they went into Fairview Hospital, and we visited them there. And that was a hard decision to make too. But the thing is that you have to do what's best. You can't do what you want. We wanted to keep them and take care of them ourselves, but you have to do what's best for the children too. And they had good care there. They had a grandmother, and they had teaching, and they had problems like David needed his teeth worked on, so we had to go. He had to go in the hospital and be put under anesthetic to have his teeth worked on. And in the middle of that situation, the doctor came out and he said, your son's sinuses and adenoids are such that he may not recover from the anesthetic. Now, those are the kinds of situations that I know the other rare mothers, and that's why I'm so grateful for Angel Aid, the other rare mothers have been through and are going through, and I truly understand it. We got a text yesterday from Catherine, and she said that her little boy got sudden onset pneumonia and was admitted to the hospital last night. And she had just been in a workshop with us that morning, and I knew exactly where she was coming from because Jared had been on life support 3 times, and we had lived through that with them. And all you can do is just love them and comfort them and reassure them. But you're watching such a painful thing for them to go through because they don't understand what's going on. And
we don't understand either. And the doctors can't seem to change it to any real good degree.
So with our relationship, what we had done because we were still good friends, close and everything, Richard agreed to take care of the 3 boys in the hospital while I was a single mom, helping my little 2.5-year-old daughter and my 9-year-old son. Anyway,
10-year-old son, Richard.
Yeah,
living the dream at the beach in Laguna Beach.
The American dream. So you kids,
where you are right now.
So you kids came home and stayed with him on the weekends, every other weekend or something like that. And I would go at night when you were asleep and your brother was babysitting you. I would go at night to the hospital to see the boys. Yeah. And you do what you need to do. You just work it out.
And I'd go and visit them at Fairview Family State Hospital, and there was some
you and your mother,
not real pleasant meetings going back there too. There's abuse by the family and the employees of the hospital to the kids, to the point where they had to be taken in to put in the hospitalization. But those things happen, and what do you do?
You make the best decisions that you can at the time.
That's true.
With all your heart, and I know we have talked about some of the abusive things that have happened, Dad, and I know that that really has weighed on your heart heavily. But that was not your fault or Mom's.
That's true.
And as a society, I know that we are more equipped to care for children and adults with disabilities that need that kind of care. And I think we're getting a language around medical trauma and what it means and how to avoid traumatic experiences when in the hospital and when meeting with doctors. You know, some things can't be avoided, but they can certainly be talked about afterwards so that you don't have to carry all that around. Because I guess that's what has always amazed me as your daughter, is that I hear it in your voice when you tell the stories. And these are 50 years ago, 60 years ago, these stories. They never leave you.
No.
They never leave you. They stay heavy on your heart and in your mind and in your psyche. And all you can do is find some peace.
That's why I'm so proud of you, Crystal, because you've taken this load of the Angel Aid onto your
Shoulders.
and to Jimmy's and to Chloe's too, and have just got done a very, very good job to help the whole
Other
rest of the
mothers.
other available people
Other children.
who have mucopolysaccharidosis or any other rare disease, and make it more understandable and making progress to try to fix things, like the doctor you told me about this morning, who had come up with some kind of a
Amylococcus, yes, came up with the enzyme replacement therapy that, as a researcher deep in the bowels of UCLA, and came up with this idea, well, if they're missing the enzyme, let's just create a synthetic one and start flushing it through their bodies and see if that makes a difference. Turns out that was a good bet.
Keep working on it and working on it until you can perfect it as far as you can.
Yep. Yeah.
The more people you get involved in it, the better chance you have of finding a cure.
This was one of the things that helped me when we broke up. I went to some kind of wedding reception and had a glass of champagne, my first taste of alcohol. And this was after we got divorced. And I started, you try different ways of coping, right? And this is why I'm so grateful for Angel Aid, because it's a self-care program that has helped me release some of the memories and some of the things I've been through, and listening to other people's stories. But anyway, to get back to the alcohol thing, it turned into a habit, and it got pretty serious until I finally realized that I wasn't really escaping anything, and I was hurting my family because they didn't know that I was that addicted to the alcohol thing. So I stopped. And my life has improved so much. And one of the things that has helped it improve was these Angel Aid retreats here at the ranch and talking at the workshops. If you remember when you started, when you restarted Angel Aid in the mode that it's in now, of helping rare mothers and caregivers and everything, I couldn't talk. That first retreat, I couldn't talk until like the second or third day. And it's just gotten better since then, because I've been able to talk about the things that happened and get over them, not over them, but release them. Yeah. So
I notice you show up every week, Mom. Right? I mean, sometimes you're the only person there, but you show up every week, every month, you know.
Paige shows up with
And Paige shows up
us
with you, and Padma and our amazing practitioners and things. What have you witnessed, Dad, since Mom's been engaging with Angel Aid and the other rare mothers?
Seeing her open up a lot and be able to talk to other people and be able to explain the life that we've gone through without being emotionally torn apart and get over it. So it's something that you have to do, and some people do it more easily than others. A lot do.
Yeah.
And I think maybe my life at a very, very young age might have something to do with it, because I never knew my real father. He left my mom when she was raising me and my brother, and her husband was, abusive to her and to us kids, and she took the problem into her hands and solved it. And she tied up her husband after beating her up at night.
And left. Took you kids and left, right?
She tied him up. Oh, you don't want to hear about that, huh?
I don't like that story.
Here's the thing. Trauma triggers traumatic memories. Right. And so we're all layers of individuals. We come into every single one of these experiences with a history and a past. Just like you both, even at 19, when you got married, you came into parenthood with a past, a history, and expectations for the future that turned out to be quite different. True. How did you find your way back to each other? I know that if anybody is listening to this, they're going to want to hear this story. So, here you met in high school, you got married, you're married 11 years, you divorced, you each remarried. I call them rebound marriages, sort of shorter term marriages, divorced. Then you each remarried again, longer term marriages, and widowed. Pretty close to within a year of each other, about the same year that your granddaughter, Chloe, my daughter, was born. Mm-hmm. I remember being on a trip with Jim and Chloe. She was about a year old. We were in Bali, and Grandpa Peterson's house flooded. And what happened at that point?
The favorite son-in-law. Dad was always my dad. Your dad was always my dad's favorite son-in-law.
Yeah, because he's the guy that knew how to fix everything.
Yeah, well, and he was the nice guy. Anyway, yeah, right. Well, they all were nice. Anyway, he came to put in safety bars after they did a lot of the plumbing repairs, and he asked me out to go to dinner. And we went to dinner, and that was it.
Yeah. And from your kids' perspective, you've been apart for 35 years. So I get back from Bali and I'm talking to Mom, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I had dinner with your dad last night." And I'm going, "Wait, what?" And I immediately call Richard, my oldest brother. I'm like, "Richard, did you know that Mom and Dad went to dinner last night?" And he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." And then a week later, next thing I know, "Oh yeah, your mom and I went and had a drink the other night." And Richard and I are like back and forth, like telephone, just trying to figure out what's going on. But what I do remember in those early years of you dating again, 35 years later, a lot of conversation about what happened.
True.
with the boys. And so without prying, I just am curious, with this perspective that you have, this lifetime sort of look back on your life, what would you, if you knew then what you know now, what would you share with a family that's newly diagnosed, that's going through this experience? What?
You can't really, I mean, you can try to explain to people what it's like, but living through it is a lot different. And it's good that you have the Angel Aid program going on to be able to have a group of people who are aware of what the problem is more technically than what we went through when nobody even knew what the problem was. So we were at the beginning of the learning process of having to go through it and live with it and cope with it and go through it completely. And we did for, you know, have for 50 years.
And so what would you tell that new family, Dad? What would you say to a young father that he could do in his?
As children
Mm-hmm.
with mucopolysaccharidosis,
Mm-hmm.
say, you know, just trust in your feelings in God or whatever, and trust in hopefully that today's technological world will maybe be able to come up with a correction for it, or at least some way to help it much better than it was when we were going through it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you can hope for.
Mm-hmm.
And your program that you're going through with Angel Aid and spreading the word, and now they're, you know, they're making changes with uh, enzymes and different things and so forth that, you know, maybe don't help it the first time, but if the more they work with it, then it gets better and better, and they get a little bit of progress here, and maybe it doesn't work at this particular angle, but you put a different point to it, and you have all these different people throughout the world who are throwing their input into it and your information, and hopefully it'll get better.
And what would you say, Mom?
Trust your instincts and love, and be open to new input, and the instinct to run away, counter that with opening up your heart to love and to giving and sharing, because running away doesn't work. And you, if you're lucky,
Well,
well,
it's true. And fortunately, you know, we were both the same age. We were both reasonably intelligent and so forth. And we both had pretty good family support
mm-hmm.
and people to go back to. And when we had to split and do the best we can, I did my part at that time, and Phyllis did her part, and you did your part, and Richard did his part. And it kept everybody enough of a core that we could finally get to a point and allow other people to come in and start helping other people, rather than still going through the hurt of what we went through at the beginning to get over it.
That's so true. And one thing we do share is that we've been, I mean, even before Angel Aid, you and I have always allowed ourselves to do self-care. When when our boys were sick and everything, I did TM, transcendental meditation, and he did his work because that made him happy. His hobby was his happiness. And
well, that's true. That was one thing that kept me on the straight and narrow is I just, tried to, I had to go to work or else not be able to support the family. So I just went to work, no matter where it was or how far, working 8 or 10 hours a day and driving 4 or 5 hours to get there and back every day. And I never missed work hardly at all, ever.
And the thing that he brings out in my mind always is that I fell in love with him in the beginning, and he's the same man as the boy that I fell in love with. So I trusted my judgment and my choice then. So there you go. You got to depend on your own instinct and your self-care. Right. Yeah, those.
I mean, is it just me? Am I biased? Are they the cutest ever? I love you guys so much. Paige is like, yeah, okay. I love you both so much. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for everything that you do. Just how you live your life is an inspiration to me and to so many others, so many people that you've never even met. Just knowing that you can survive this experience is a great it's a great comfort. It's a great comfort. And then that love conquers all is also quite an amazing story. So thank you.
A daughter like you that follows in our footsteps and just does so well in everything, and she's top of her class here and there, and all the way through school and UCLA. And I told you when you moved back with me to live with me, I told you, I said, you do well in school, and I'll send you to any school you want to go to. As long as
there you go.
As long as you can be accepted. And that's what I did. And that's one of the things I'm really proud of, to support you in that situation, which allowed you then to be exposed to this open world, which was a whole new world just beginning there. And we didn't even know it. But the computers and the industry and so forth, and the expanded knowledge and so forth for the whole world. And it's going so fast, and nobody hardly can keep up with it. But you have.
Absolutely. Well, we have, and here we are taking advantage of all those tools. So this wraps up our interview. Thank you so much, Richard and Phyllis, Mom and Dad. Thank you for an amazing hour. This has been a long time coming. I've wanted the honor of interviewing the two of you for a while, and I appreciate you taking your time today and sharing and opening up your heart and being vulnerable and just being like that example of forgiveness and love and communication and time. All of those things can make a huge difference in healing a family, a rare family that's gone through quite a bit. So thank you.
True. Well, best thing to do is if you can do any good to anybody else, do it while you're still there and can do it.
That's right.
It's too late.
That's right. That's it. That's exactly it. Okay.
That's why I took her back under my wing again.
Oh, now we get this. Oh, look at her roll her eyes. These are the outtakes after, Go ahead, Mom.
Who took who under their wing?
Oh, who took who under their wing? Exactly. All right, you two. Thank you so much. I love you. I'll see you on the Angel Aid Network, and have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paige.
Bye.